About U.S. intelligence report released recently, in which United States expressed concern about the peace and security of South Asia, mainly because of Pakistan-India tensions. Pakistan offered offered to have a peace talks with India many times, but Indian government, tried to avoid that. So when you engage with Indian authorities, what reason they say why they don't want to talk to Pakistan on the pending issues?
I will speak to the message we send to both India and Pakistan. We support constructive dialogue. We support diplomacy between India and Pakistan to resolve, again, another set of long-standing disputes. We are a partner. We are willing to support that process in any way that they deem appropriate, but ultimately these are decisions that India and Pakistan themselves are going to have to make.
So many analysts believe that United States has the power and authority to mediate between the two partners. Pakistan and India is, partners of yours. So why don't you just mediate?
Because these are decisions for the countries themselves. If they agree on a particular role for the United States is prepared to, as a partner to both countries, support that process in any way that we responsibly can. But ultimately, it is not for the United States to determine the modalities or the way in which India and Pakistan engage one another. What we support is constructive dialogue, meaningful diplomacy between India and Pakistan in the first instance to resolve long-standing conflicts.
Last question. I hope you're aware about the police baton charge on the women at the Women's March. I know you try to avoid commenting on the domestic issues, but this is like a brutal attack on the women during the Women's March on the International Women's Day.
We've seen those reports, and unfortunately we've seen reports of violence and repression against marches on International Women's Day around the world. We condemn reports of police violence against peaceful protesters who took to the streets to defend their human rights and fundamental freedoms across the globe on International Women's Day. It is to us reprehensible that some countries on International Women's Day, a day for the international community to come together to celebrate the leadership and contributions and accomplishments of women and girls, was marred in far too many places by violence and repression against the very persons we came together to honor. Women and girls deserve the ability to exercise their freedom of expression, their right to peaceful assembly and association without fear or retribution. We know from experience that governments that treat women and girls equally, that fail to treat women and girls equally and that don't respect their fundamental human rights are societies that are not in a position to reach their full potential. So Goyal, the Secretary, did have an audience with the Prime Minister when they were in New Delhi for the G20. He had a chance to speak to the Prime Minister. I'm just not in a position to detail what was exchanged between the Secretary and the Prime Minister, but our message to India and about India is consistent. India is a global strategic partner of the United States. The engagements we've had with our Indian partners at the ministerial level, at the leader level, at all levels, has been in furtherance of deepening the already extensive ties between our two countries. These are ties that are political in nature, diplomatic, economic, security, and importantly, people-to-people ties. There is a vibrant Indian diaspora in this country. There is quite a bit of interest on the part of the American private sector in India, exchange students. There are various ways in which our two societies are intertwined. So every time we have an opportunity to meet with our Indian counterparts, it is an effort to deepen what is that already quite extensive global strategic partnership. Political questions. Those are questions for the Pakistani people to decide for themselves. The United States does not take a position. We only take a position in support of Pakistan's democracy and its constitutional system. Our goal for Pakistan is a country that is peaceful, stable, and prosperous. And you reference this, but Pakistan has encountered economic headwinds of late. The Pakistani people are facing record levels of inflation. Of course, this comes on the back of the extensive flooding through parts of the country, and it has only put a spotlight on our need to continue to work together to help the Pakistani people help put themselves on a sustainable economic path and a durable path to the prosperity that we seek for the Pakistani people. There's a reform agenda that the Pakistani government is in the midst of. We encourage Pakistan to continue working with the IMF, especially on reforms that will improve Pakistan's business environment. And we know that doing so will ultimately make Pakistani businesses more attractive and competitive around the world. This is a country with tremendous potential, and we have partnered with Pakistan. We want to make sure that the resources that Pakistan has itself, the resources that the United States is contributing, that other countries are contributing, and the resources that have and will continue to come from international financial institutions, they're managed responsibly as part of responsible and responsive governance.